The grandeur of the Galactic Council's opulent chamber was lost on Jessica Williamson as she stood before the imposing alien representatives. The human diplomat's steely gaze swept across the vast semicircle of hovering daises, each occupied by a different species of the Milky Way's supposed enlightened civilizations. Jessica knew that to these arrogant extraterrestrials, Earth and its people were nothing more than primitive barbarians, a minor curiosity at best, and a potential threat at worst. But she had come to this audacious summit with a message that would shatter the Galactic Council's smug complacency. Clearing her throat, Jessica began in a clear, unwavering tone. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you today on behalf of the United Nations of Earth. For too long, your governing body has regarded our homeworld as an insignificant backwater, unworthy of your consideration or respect. Well, that ends now. A murmur of disdain rippled through the chamber, quickly silenced by a raised tentacle from the towering Atenarian representative. The humans have not been invited here to make demands, the alien growled. You will speak only when spoken to, and be grateful we have deigned to hear your meaningless prattle. Jessica's lips thinned into a humorless smile. I'm afraid you misunderstand our purpose here. We are not begging for your attention or permission. We are here to issue a warning, one that I suggest you heed, for the sake of your precious galactic order. The Xenarian's glowing eyes narrowed to slits, but before he could respond, a shimmering hologram erupted in the center of the chamber. Gasps of alarm echoed through the hall as the image coalesced into a detailed star chart, highlighting several key Galactic Council outposts and supply hubs. These are the coordinates of facilities that, as of 800 hours this morning, have been utterly destroyed, Jessica announced, her voice laced with grim satisfaction. By the time your fleets arrive to assess the damage, there will be nothing left but debris and the charred remains of your forces. The Galactic Council erupted into pandemonium, delegates shouting furiously in a cacophony of alien languages. Jessica waited patiently, allowing the chaos to run its course. Finally, a stentorian voice boomed out, silencing the room. Explain yourself, human, rumbled the towering Murgoth representative, his four eyes glaring down at Jessica. How have you managed this devastating assault on our installations? Jessica inclined her head slightly. For decades, the nations of Earth have been covertly developing advanced weapons and defense systems, technologies that far surpass even your own. We have been waiting, watching, and preparing for this moment. Impossible, spat the Xenarian. Your kind are nothing more than uncivilized savages, scarcely capable of interstellar travel, let alone constructing armaments that could threaten the might of the Galactic Council. Jessica's expression hardened. Believe what you will, but the evidence of our capabilities is clear. What you are witnessing is merely the opening salvo. Unless you are willing to negotiate with us as equals, we will continue to strike at the very foundations of your precious empire. Murmurs of alarm and outrage swept through the chamber. The Galactic Council representatives were clearly shaken, unused to such brazen defiance from a supposedly inferior species. Jessica waited, allowing the gravity of her words to sink in. Finally, the imposing Murgoth representative raised a massive clawed hand, silencing the din. You claim to speak for all of Earth, yet you are but a single human. How can we be assured that your people will honor any agreement we reach? Jessica's lips curled into a confident smile. Oh, you can be certain of that. For I am not merely a diplomat. I am the chief strategist and commander of Earth's united military forces. And I can assure you, my people are ready and willing to bring the full weight of our arsenal to bear, should you choose to ignore our demands. The Galactic Council erupted once more into frantic debate, the alien delegates clearly unsettled by this unexpected turn of events. Jessica stood calmly, her gaze sweeping across the chamber. The time for Earth's long overdue reckoning had arrived. The Galactic Council chamber descended into pandemonium as the human diplomat Jessica Williamson's bold declaration sank in. Alien delegates shouted and gesticulated, their outraged cries echoing through the vast hall. The towering Murgoth representative raised a massive clawed hand, silencing the din. Enough! He rumbled, his deep voice reverberating through the chamber. This human has made grave accusations. We must investigate these claims immediately. Jessica inclined her head slightly. By all means, investigate. But I can assure you, every word I have spoken is the truth. Earth is ready to defend itself against your aggression, should you choose to ignore our demands. The Exenarian delegate sneered. Your primitive species has the audacity to issue demands to the Galactic Council. You are nothing more than uncivilized savages, unworthy of our consideration. Are we? Jessica replied, her tone dripping with disdain. Tell me, Cenarian, how many of your kind perished in the attacks I described? Or perhaps you would care to explain the sudden disappearance of your supply convoys along the outer rim. The Cenarian's glowing eyes widened, and he recoiled as if struck. Jessica allowed a slight smile to tug at the corners of her lips. Yes, we have your attention now. Good. The sooner you accept the reality of Earth's capabilities, the sooner we can negotiate a mutually beneficial arrangement. The Murgoth representative rumbled thoughtfully. You speak with remarkable confidence, human. Yet we have no proof of these alleged attacks, nor any evidence of your technological superiority. What guarantee do we have that you are not simply bluffing? Jessica's expression hardened. Proof. Very well. She gestured, and a series of holographic images flickered to life in the center of the chamber. These are real-time feeds from our observatories, tracking the aftermath of the strikes we executed earlier today. As you can see, the damage is extensive, and our forces are already in position to escalate further if necessary. The Galactic Council delegates leaned forward, their eyes widening as they scrutinized the disturbing images. Entire outposts reduced to rubble, supply convoys obliterated, and the twisted wreckage of alien vessels drifting aimlessly in the void. Impossible. The Exenarian breathed, his tentacles twitching in agitation. Jessica's gaze swept across the chamber. I assure you, it is very much possible. Earth has been quietly developing advanced technologies that rival, and in some cases surpass, even your own. We have waited patiently, biding our time, while your council has continued to exploit and oppress lesser civilizations. The Murgoth representative rumbled thoughtfully. If what you say is true, then the balance of power in this galaxy has shifted. We must convene an emergency session to discuss this grave development. Jessica nodded. By all means, do so. But know this. Earth is no longer content to be ignored or overlooked. We have been watching, and we have learned. Now, it is time for us to take our rightful place among the stars. As the Galactic Council erupted into frantic debate, Jessica turned and strode from the chamber, her steps measured and confident. She knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but Earth was ready. Back on the human homeworld, President Olivia Nguyen pored over the latest intelligence reports, her brow furrowed in concentration. The pieces were falling into place, but she knew that the true test was yet to come. With a steely resolve, she prepared to mobilize Earth's united forces, ready to face whatever the Galactic Council had in store. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the galactic order. Earth had struck the first blow, and the Galactic Council would soon learn that the era of human subjugation was over. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with frantic activity as the delegates convened an emergency session to address the startling revelations presented by the human diplomat, Jessica Williamson. Hushed conversations and heated debates echoed through the vast hall as the alien representatives struggled to comprehend the gravity of the situation. At the center of the commotion stood the towering Murgoth, his 4 eyes narrowed in deep contemplation. "This is a most troubling development," he rumbled, his voice cutting through the din. "The human claims to have inflicted devastating blows against our installations, and the evidence she has provided is undeniable." The Xynerian delegate, his tentacles twitching in agitation, stepped forward. "Then we must retaliate immediately. These primitives have the audacity to threaten the might of the Galactic Council. They must be crushed, swiftly and decisively, before they can do further damage to our empire." A murmur of agreement ran through the chamber, but the Murgoth raised a massive clawed hand, silencing the chorus of voices. That would be unwise. The human has made it clear that Earth possesses advanced capabilities that we did not anticipate. A reckless assault could lead to catastrophic losses for our forces. The Xynerian bristled, his glowing eyes narrowing to slits. "You would have us cower before these insignificant creatures. The Galactic Council has never yielded to the demands of lesser civilizations. We must show them the true power of our might." "And that is precisely the mentality that has led us to this predicament," a new voice interjected, cutting through the tension. All eyes turned to the shimmering hologram that had materialized at the center of the chamber, the image of a stern-faced human woman, her dark eyes piercing and resolute. "President Olivier Rien," the Murgoth rumbled, inclining his massive head slightly. "You grace us with your presence." Rien's lips twisted into a humorless smile. "Spare me the pleasantries, Murgoth. I am here to deliver a message on behalf of the United Nations of Earth." She paused, her gaze sweeping over the assembled delegates. "Withdraw your forces from the sectors we have targeted, and cease all hostile actions against our planet. Failure to comply will result in the complete annihilation of your military presence in this region of space." The Xynerian let out a derisive snort. "You expect us to capitulate to the demands of this insignificant species? The Galactic Council does not negotiate with." "Silence, Xynerian," the Murgoth rumbled, his deep voice brooking no argument. "The human has made her position clear. We would be wise to heed her warning." Nguyen nodded, her expression grim. "You have 48 standard hours to comply. If we do not see the immediate withdrawal of your forces, we will have no choice but to escalate our response. The choice is yours." Without another word, the holographic image of the human president winked out, leaving the Galactic Council delegates in a stunned silence. The Murgoth turned to face his fellow representatives, his massive form looming over them. "We must convene a tactical meeting at once. Prepare our fleets for mobilization, but exercise extreme caution. These humans have proven themselves to be a formidable adversary, and we cannot afford to underestimate them again." As the alien delegates hurried to carry out the Murgoth's orders, a sense of unease permeated the chamber. The Galactic Council had long viewed the humans as an insignificant, backward species, unworthy of their attention. But now, faced with the stark reality of Earth's newfound capabilities, they found themselves confronted with a stark choice: adapt to the changing galactic landscape, or risk being swept aside by the rising human tide. The stage was set for a titanic clash, one that would determine the future of not just Earth, but the entire Milky Way. The Galactic Council had been caught off guard, and they knew that failure to respond appropriately could spell the end of their dominance over the stars. The Galactic Council chamber was a maelstrom of activity as the alien delegates scrambled to coordinate their response to the escalating crisis with Earth. Urgent communiques were exchanged, fleet deployments were hastily organized, and heated debates raged over the appropriate course of action. At the center of the chaos stood the towering Murgoth representative, his four eyes narrowed in deep thought. "We cannot afford to engage the humans in open conflict," he rumbled, his deep voice cutting through the din. "Their capabilities have proven to be far greater than we anticipated. A direct assault would be catastrophic." The Exenarian delegate let out a derisive snort. "You would have us cower before these upstart primitives. The Galactic Council has never yielded to the demands of lesser civilizations. We must show them the true might of our forces." The Murgoth fixed the Exenarian with a stern glare. "And what would that accomplish? Another devastating strike from the humans, leaving our fleets decimated and our holdings in ruin? No, we must approach this situation with caution and diplomacy." Across the vast chamber, a shimmering hologram flickered to life, and the image of a human male materialized. Clad in a crisp uniform, his dark eyes narrowed and his expression grim, Michael Rodriguez, Earth's chief diplomatic envoy, addressed the assembled delegates. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, I come to you today with a proposal." He paused, sweeping his gaze across the tense faces of the alien representatives. "We are willing to negotiate a peaceful resolution to this conflict, but only if you are prepared to meet our demands." The Exenarian bristled, his tentacles twitching in agitation. "You dare to make demands of the Galactic Council? After the unprovoked attacks your people have launched against our installations?" Rodriguez's expression remained impassive. "Unprovoked? I think not. Your council's long history of exploitation and oppression of less advanced civilizations is well documented. Earth has simply decided that the time has come to assert our rightful place among the stars." The Murgoth raised a massive clawed hand, silencing the Exenarian's retort. "Very well, human. We are listening. What are these demands of yours?" Rodriguez nodded, his gaze unwavering. "First and foremost, we demand full and equal representation within the Galactic Council. Earth must be granted a permanent seat at your table, with veto power over any decisions that may impact our interests." Murmurs of outrage swept through the chamber, but Rodriguez pressed on undeterred. "Secondly, we require the immediate cessation of all resource extraction and commercial activities within the Sol system. Earth's resources are to be controlled and utilized by our own people for our own benefit." The Exenarian's glowing eyes widened in shock. "You expect us to simply hand over our holdings in your system? Preposterous. The Galactic Council has maintained a presence in your system for centuries." "And that presence is no longer welcome," Rodriguez replied coolly. "If you refuse to comply, we will be forced to take further action to secure our sovereignty." The Murgoth raised a massive hand, silencing the renewed din of protest. "These are considerable demands, human. We will need time to deliberate and consult with our respective governments." Rodriguez inclined his head slightly. "You have 24 standard hours. Failure to agree to our terms will result in the immediate and complete withdrawal of all Galactic Council forces from the Sol system. The choice is yours." Without another word, the holographic image of the human diplomat winked out, leaving the Galactic Council delegates in stunned silence. The Murgoth turned to face his fellow representatives, his expression grim. "It seems we have no choice but to acquiesce to the humans' demands," he rumbled. "Our forces are too depleted, and the threat of further retaliation from Earth is too great to ignore. We must act swiftly before the situation deteriorates further." As the Galactic Council delegates reluctantly began to draft their response, a profound sense of unease settled over the chamber. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and the mighty Galactic Council found itself forced to submit to the demands of a species they had long dismissed as insignificant. The era of human subjugation was over, and a new age was dawning, one in which Earth would claim its rightful place among the stars. The Galactic Council chamber was cloaked in an uneasy silence as the alien delegates grappled with the gravity of the situation. The humans, once dismissed as primitive and insignificant, had now forced the mighty council to submit to their demands, or risk further devastation. The Murgoth representative's massive frame loomed over the others, his 4 eyes narrowed in contemplation. "The humans have left us with no choice," he rumbled, his deep voice cutting through the tension. "We must agree to their terms, or face the consequences of their wrath." A murmur of discontent rippled through the assembled delegates, with the Exenarian delegate stepping forward, his tentacles twitching in agitation. "You would have us capitulate to these upstart primitives?" He spat. "The Galactic Council has never yielded to the demands of lesser civilizations. We must find a way to regain control of this situation." The Murgoth fixed the Exenarian with a stern gaze. "And how do you propose we do that?" "The humans have demonstrated a level of technological sophistication that rivals, and in some cases surpasses, our own. Any overt act of aggression would be met with catastrophic losses." The Exenarian's glowing eyes narrowed to slits. "Then we must find more subtle means of undermining their position. Covert operations, carefully orchestrated sabotage, methods that will weaken the humans without provoking their wrath." A thoughtful murmur rippled through the chamber as the other delegates considered the Exenarian's proposal. The Murgoth stroked his chin contemplatively, his massive claws gleaming in the dim light. "It is a risky proposition," he rumbled, "but one we may have no choice but to pursue. We cannot afford to simply accept the humans' demands without exploring alternative options." Across the galaxy, on the human homeworld, President Olivia Nguyen pored over the latest intelligence reports, her brow furrowed in concentration. Jessica Williamson, her chief strategic advisor, stood at her side, her expression equally grim. "The Galactic Council has agreed to our terms," Nguyen said, her voice calm, but laced with steel. "But I sense they are not pleased with the arrangement. We must be vigilant, Jessica. I fear they may attempt to undermine our position through more covert means." Jessica nodded, her gaze unwavering. "I anticipated as much. The humans have risen to challenge their dominance, and the Council will not take that lightly. We must be prepared to defend our hard-won gains at every turn." Nguyen's lips thinned into a determined line. "Assemble our best intelligence operatives. I want eyes and ears everywhere, monitoring the Galactic Council's movements. If they so much as sneeze in our direction, I want to know about it." "Consider it done," Jessica replied, her tone resolute. "We've come too far to let the Council take back what we've won. Earth will not be cowed, not now, and not ever again." As the meeting concluded, the two women exchanged a look of shared purpose. The battle for Earth's rightful place among the stars was far from over, but they were confident that their planet had the resolve and the resources to withstand any challenge the Galactic Council might throw their way. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the delegates were already putting their covert plans into motion, their expressions grim with determination. The humans had struck a blow that shook the very foundations of the Galactic Order, and the Council would not rest until they had regained the upper hand. The stage was set for a delicate and dangerous game of cat and mouse, with the fate of the entire Milky Way hanging in the balance. Neither side was willing to back down, and the consequences of their actions would reverberate through the stars for generations to come. The Galactic Council's grand halls were cloaked in an air of tense unease as the alien delegates put their covert plans into motion. Hushed conversations and furtive glances marked the beginning of a delicate game of subterfuge, as the once mighty governing body struggled to regain the upper hand against the upstart humans of Earth. At the center of the Galactic Council's machinations stood the Exenerian representative, his glowing eyes gleaming with a mixture of resentment and determination. "We cannot allow the humans to maintain their newfound position of power," he hissed, his tentacles twitching with restless energy. "They have disrupted the balance of the galaxy, and we must take action to restore order." The Murgoth representative rumbled in agreement, his massive frame casting a long shadow over the Exenerian. "Your plan has merit, but we must proceed with the utmost caution. The humans have proven themselves to be a formidable adversary, and any misstep could lead to catastrophic consequences." The Exenerian's lips curled into a derisive sneer. "Caution. Since when has the Galactic Council cowered before lesser civilizations? We are the guardians of the galactic order. It is our duty to ensure that upstart species like the humans know their place." The Murgoth's four eyes narrowed as he regarded the Exenerian with a measured gaze. "And how do you propose we accomplish that? Direct confrontation is no longer an option, not after the devastating losses we have suffered. We must employ more subtle means to undermine the humans' position." A sly smile crept across the Exenerian's features. "Precisely. I have already set in motion a series of covert operations designed to destabilize the human government and sow discord among their people." The Murgoth quirked a brow ridge. "Elaborate." "We have infiltrated their information networks, planting false reports and sowing seeds of doubt," the Exenerian explained, his voice low and conspiratorial. "We are also funding dissident groups within their population, encouraging them to challenge the authority of their leaders." The Murgoth considered this, his massive claws tapping against the surface of the council dais. "And what of their military capabilities? Surely they have not let their guard down, even after their initial victory." The Exenerian's smile widened. "Oh, we have taken measures to address that as well. Our agents have been tasked with sabotaging the humans' defense systems, disrupting their supply chains, and sowing confusion within their ranks." The Murgoth's expression darkened. "You are playing a dangerous game, Exenerian. The humans have proven themselves to be formidable adversaries. If they discover our machinations, the consequences could be catastrophic. Then we must ensure they do not discover them," the Exenerian countered, his tone laced with arrogance. "The Galactic Council has lasted for millennia, outlasting countless civilizations. We will not be cowed by these upstart humans, no matter how advanced their technology may be." The Murgoth's gaze narrowed, but before he could respond, a shimmering hologram erupted in the center of the chamber, the stern visage of President Olivier Nguyen glaring down at the assembled delegates. "Greetings, members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice dripping with barely concealed contempt. "I trust you have upheld your end of our agreement and withdrawn your forces from the Sol system, as promised." The Exenerian's tentacles twitched, but the Murgoth stepped forward, inclining his massive head. "We have, President Nguyen. However, we must discuss the matter of our continued presence in the surrounding sectors." Nguyen's eyes narrowed. "I was under the impression that our demands were clear. The Galactic Council is to have no further presence within the Sol system. Any deviation from this agreement will be met with swift and decisive action." The Murgoth's expression darkened. "We understand your position, but you must appreciate the delicate nature of our situation. There are matters of galactic security that require our continued oversight in the region. Nguyen's lips thinned into a hard line. I see. Then consider this your final warning, Murgoth. Withdraw your forces, or face the full might of Earth's wrath. Without another word, the holographic image winked out, leaving the Galactic Council delegates in a tense silence. The Exenarian's gaze gleamed with a dangerous light, his tentacles twitching with barely contained glee. It seems the humans are not as vigilant as we had assumed, he murmured, his voice dripping with malice. Perhaps now is the time to accelerate our plans. The Murgoth's 4 eyes narrowed, but he said nothing, his massive frame betraying the unease that gnawed at him. The die had been cast, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Tension hung heavy in the Galactic Council chamber as the alien delegates grappled with the escalating crisis. The Exenarians' reckless covert operations had begun to bear fruit, sowing discord and instability within the human government, but President Olivia Nguyen and her team remained resolute in their defense of Earth's newfound sovereignty. The Murgoth representative, his massive frame towering over the others, let out a rumbling sigh. This cannot continue, Thinarian. Your actions have placed us on a perilous course, one that threatens to unravel the fragile peace we have established with the humans. The Exenarian's glowing eyes narrowed to slits, his tentacles twitching with defiance. Peace. You speak of peace with these upstart primitives, as if it were an attainable goal. The Galactic Council has never bent to the demands of lesser civilizations, and we will not start now. And yet, here we are, the Murgoth replied, his deep voice tinged with a hint of wariness. The humans have proven themselves to be a formidable adversary, one that we can no longer afford to dismiss or underestimate. We must find a way to resolve this conflict, lest we risk the complete collapse of the galactic order we have so carefully maintained. The Exenarian let out a derisive snort. Resolve the conflict. The only way to resolve this is to crush the humans beneath the weight of our might. Their insolence cannot be allowed to stand. Before the Murgoth could respond, a shimmering hologram erupted in the center of the chamber, the stern visage of Michael Rodriguez, Earth's chief diplomatic envoy, materializing before the gathered delegates. Members of the Galactic Council, Rodriguez began, his tone measured and unwavering. I come to you today with a proposal, one that I hope will bring an end to this dangerous impasse. The Exenarian's tentacles twitched with annoyance, but the Murgoth raised a massive clawed hand, silencing the others. Speak, human. We are listening. Rodriguez inclined his head slightly. As you know, the recent attacks on your installations, as well as the withdrawal of your forces from the Sol system, have placed a considerable strain on the Galactic Council's military and economic resources. The Exenarian bristled, but Rodriguez pressed on undeterred. In the interest of restoring stability and preventing further escalation, we are willing to negotiate a compromise that would allow for the limited and supervised return of your presence within our system. Murmurs of surprise and consternation rippled through the chamber, and the Exenarian opened his mouth to object, but the Murgoth silenced him with a stern glare. Go on, human, the Murgoth rumbled. What are the terms of this compromise you propose? Rodriguez's gaze swept across the assembled delegates. First and foremost, Earth will maintain full sovereignty over the resources and territories within the Sol system. Any extraction or commercial activities will be subject to our approval and oversight. The Exenarian let out a derisive snort, but Rodriguez raised a hand, forestalling any interruption. Secondly, the Galactic Council will be granted a limited presence within the system, with the express purpose of maintaining diplomatic and scientific liaison. Your military forces, however, will be strictly prohibited. The Murgoth's 4 eyes narrowed in contemplation. And what of the matter of Earth's representation within the Galactic Council itself? That remains non-negotiable, Rodriguez replied, his tone firm. Earth will be granted a permanent seat on the Council, with full veto power over any decisions that may impact our interests. The Exenarian opened his mouth to protest, but the Murgoth raised a massive clawed hand, silencing him once more. We will need time to deliberate on your proposal, human. But I must say, it is a far more reasonable offer than we had anticipated. Rodriguez inclined his head. I understand your need for caution, Murgoth. However, I must impress upon you the urgency of this matter. The Galactic Council has a limited window of time to accept our terms before we are forced to take more drastic measures. The Murgoth's expression darkened, but he nodded. Very well. We will convene an emergency session and provide you with our response within 48 standard hours. As the hologram of Rodriguez winked out, the Exenarian turned to the Murgoth, his tentacles twitching with barely contained rage. You cannot be seriously considering this proposal. It is an outrage, a capitulation to the demands of these insignificant humans. The Murgoth fixed the Exenarian with a stern gaze. And what alternative do you propose, Kleinarian? More covert operations that risk provoking the full wrath of Earth? I think not. We must accept the reality of the situation and negotiate a peace, lest we find ourselves on the losing side of this conflict. The Exenarian's eyes narrowed, but he remained silent, his expression betraying the turmoil that raged within him. The Galactic Council stood at a crossroads, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The Galactic Council chamber was a maelstrom of heated debate as the alien delegates grappled with the weighty decision before them. The compromise proposal put forth by the humans had thrown the once dominant governing body into a state of unprecedented turmoil, with the Exenarian representative leading the charge against any form of capitulation. This is an outrage. The Exenarian seethed, his tentacles twitching with barely contained fury. The Galactic Council has never bent to the demands of lesser civilizations, and we will not start now. We must crush these insolent humans and reclaim our rightful place as the undisputed masters of the galaxy. The Murgoth representative raised a massive clawed hand, silencing the Exenarian's tirade. Your words carry no small measure of truth, Exenarian, but we must also acknowledge the harsh realities that now confront us. He turned his piercing gaze to the assembled delegates. The humans have proven themselves to be a far more formidable adversary than we ever imagined. Their technological capabilities rival, and in some cases, surpass our own. A direct confrontation would be catastrophic, not just for us, but for the entire galactic order we have worked so hard to maintain. The Exenarian opened his mouth to protest, but the Murgoth continued, his deep voice resonating through the chamber. We have already borne witness to the devastation they can inflict. To refuse their proposal would be to invite further destruction that could cripple the Galactic Council beyond repair. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly, and the Exenarian's glowing eyes narrowed to slits. Then you would have us surrender to their demands, become beholden to these upstart humans, forced to grovel before them and accept their terms. The Murgoth's expression hardened. I would have us survive, Exenarian, to adapt to the changing realities of the galaxy, rather than cling to the outdated notions of dominance and subjugation. The humans have earned their place among the stars, and we must acknowledge that for the sake of the peace and stability we have fought so hard to preserve. Across the galaxy, on the human homeworld, President Olivia Nguyen and her team watched the proceedings with a mixture of cautious optimism and resolute determination. Jessica Williamson, Nguyen's chief strategic advisor, stood at her side, her expression unreadable. It would seem the Galactic Council is finally coming to its senses. Nguyen murmured, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic feed. Jessica nodded. Indeed, but we must remain vigilant. The Exenarian and his ilk will not surrender their dominance without a fight. The true test lies ahead. Nguyen's lips thinned into a grim line. Then we shall be ready. Earth has endured too much oppression at the hands of the Galactic Council. This is our moment to claim our rightful place among the stars, and we will not shrink from that challenge. Jessica's expression mirrored her president's resolve. Nor should we. The humans have proven their mettle, and the galaxy will soon bear witness to the full extent of our power and determination. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the debate raged on, with the Murgoth and his more pragmatic allies slowly gaining the upper hand. The Exenarian, his fury barely contained, resigned himself to the inevitable, knowing that further resistance would only lead to the Galactic Council's utter destruction. As the final vote was cast, the chamber fell silent, the weight of the historic decision hanging heavy in the air. The Murgoth rose, his massive frame commanding the attention of all present. It is with both trepidation and hope that I announce the Galactic Council's acceptance of the human's proposal. He paused, his 4 eyes sweeping across the assembly. Earth shall be granted a permanent seat on this council, with full veto power over our decisions. Furthermore, our military presence within the Sol system will be strictly limited, while our diplomatic and scientific activities will be subject to the approval and oversight of the human government. The Exenarian's tentacles twitched with barely concealed rage, but even he knew that further opposition was futile. The era of human subjugation was over, and a new chapter in the history of the galaxy had begun. As the Galactic Council delegates filed out of the chamber, a sense of unease and uncertainty hung in the air. The humans had risen to challenge the might of the Galactic Council, and they had emerged victorious. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the galaxy would never be the same.